following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello and welcome to The People's View. I'm Carl Seidel, and this program is sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. We meet every second Thursday of the month at the Crown Plaza, and if you go to our website at nashuagop.org, you'll find out what speakers we have and what other programs we have. And today we're going to be talking to David Schoneman. David is a candidate for Alderman in Ward 3.
Ward 3, that's correct, Carl. Thanks.
Good. Why don't you tell people again why you've been on before, but tell them again what your reason is for running.
I'm glad to. I'm very concerned with the direction that our country is going on all levels. And I find that the influence that we can have on a national level may be difficult. I think even on a state level it's hard. But locally, this is where voters really have a say in what direction their community goes. I think that the issues that a small group of aldermen deal with have a larger impact than the issues that maybe a single state rep might have a chance to vote on up in Concord. So we have a chance here to make decisions, to guide our community, to benefit our community, and have a larger impact than we might have on other levels. And so I'm very excited to be walking the neighborhoods again and talking to the folks and explaining my candidacy to them. I think that Nashua is a great city, great potential, great future. The decisions that we make in City Hall affect all our lives every day, more so than many other levels. And this is where I think it really counts. The
biggest part of our donation to the government is
it's property tax.
It's property tax, and that's what you have to pay for here in Nashua.
Yep.
Well, what in your background made you think that you're qualified to run for something like this?
I have a business background. I went to Lehigh University. I graduated in 1978, and with a degree in business and economics. And I moved to Boston after working in New York City for a couple of years. I have insurance experience in New York City and insurance experience in Boston. And then I went to graduate school at Boston University and got an MBA, studying operations and international business, just a general business experience, budgets and finance and making ends meet, all these kinds of things that I think are very important in any kind of organization, certainly important in a governmental organization. So it's a business background, I think, that qualifies me. Also along the way, growing up and working in various industries where we're trying to get things done. And I worked in a hospital downtown Boston for a while, and that's a very political organization, let me tell you.
Boston City Hospital?
Actually, it was New England Medical Center Hospital.
Well, that's a big operation.
It's a big operation. And decisions that are made there, I had a big budget, we were doing a big construction project. Decisions that need to be made there can be made one or two ways. They can be forced, or we can build consensus. And I found that it was so much better. I saw people trying one method, others trying others, and by far, the better way to deal with a very political organization like that, where decisions are made collectively, is to work with people, listen to what they have to say, arrive at consensus, and then move forward with that. And I think that by and large, good decisions were made. And most of the decisions that were made didn't require an answer right now. It wasn't, someone on the operating table, for instance. It was, what are we going to do with budgets or with this purchase or with that facility over the coming months? And we could talk about these things and work them out. And I think that always arriving at consensus is a better way to go than coming out and saying, by the way, this is what we're going to do. And in fact, we just did it yesterday. We don't want to just dump things on people. I learned business through college and graduate school, and I learned how to arrive at good, mutually beneficial,
So it sounds like you've
consensus-derived.
had a lot of the things that you might run in as alderman.
Well,
things of
that's
that
right.
nature.
I think that's true. I went to the aldermanic meeting last week,
Uh-huh.
and I saw the benefit of some consensus building that could have happened there. It's very difficult, very contentious environment sometimes. And I think that the main thing to do is to stick with truth,
Right.
not ideology. Fortunately, this is not an ideological race. It's
Right.
a nonpartisan race. It's really about ideas, not about name calling or not about, picking on somebody or any kind of negativity. It's really about ideas, not ideology. And I think that with that, I would hope and look forward to being able to work with these folks, listen to anything that someone has to say. I love hearing what people have to say. I like to formulate my ideas and my decisions based on the things that I hear, rather than going in and saying, based on my ideology, this is how we're going to do it. I don't think that's the way to go.
Well, it sounds like you got a good background. Now, some of the problems, or I shouldn't say problems, some of the issues that are coming up in your ward, something like Grilli Park and what's going to happen to that. How do you feel about that?
Well, Grilli Park's a beautiful spot.
It is.
It's just down the street from me. I think most of us who live in Ward 3 there are probably passing Grilli Park nearly every day. It's a well-used facility, and it's beautiful. And I want to see it preserved. I think that the things that we have there that's a benefit to us in Ward 3 and to all of Nashua really should be preserved and kept available. The proposal now is to have a new park, a new playground installed somewhere in Grilli Park called the Legacy Playground. I think the implication there is that if we make this new playground, we're leaving a legacy for future generations. That's why I think they chose the term legacy. My view is we already have a legacy. That park has been given to the city of Nashua. The aldermen have decided that in years past that there can be no development there without aldermanic approval. I think the idea is to guard the legacy that has been given to us. And we don't need to make a change in order to have a legacy. We can preserve it. The initial proposal was to change the area where the gazebo is, where the existing playground is, and to put in a playground geared towards, at least initially or primarily towards autistic children. And I want to be very clear, and everyone I speak to who feels the way I do is very clear also. We have nothing against autistic children or any kind of special needs. But the idea is to have a playground specifically for them that would take away some of the space that's currently used. It would be a fenced-in area, there'd be bleachers, there'd be an expansion to the road leading into the park, and there'd be additional parking. There was a lot of pushback on that particular site, so now the current discussion is to install that new playground where the hibachis are, where those grills are. And those two are used all the time. I was through the park on Sunday afternoon. Those hibachis are being used. There was an inflatable kids playhouse thing going on and frisbees being thrown around. People love that space. And a lot of people in Nashua don't have large backyards. If they want to have a grill, have a party somewhere, a graduation party or a birthday party with the whole family, this is the place to go. It's nearby, and like I've said before, it's a beautiful facility.
Well, it's a large facility, too. Isn't there any alternate space?
I believe there are alternate spaces. I was talking to one resident this morning, and we were discussing the possibility of the Sergeant Ave playground. That's a playground that is used frequently. It's a nice playground. It's close to the pool. It's close to the tennis courts. There's a wide street there. There's plenty of parking. I think that's a very nice facility. And I haven't spoken to anyone any of those neighbors who might like to see that there or not like to see it there. But one person I spoke with just suggested that seemed like a decent spot. Now, there are other locations, too, within the city.
I would think they'd be able to
compromise.
compromise, and maybe your approach of getting a consensus.
Well, that would certainly be my approach. And my fear is that someone is going to try to ram this thing through. Backroom meetings, maybe through the Board of Public Works, not through the Aldermanic Committee, and force a decision here that everyone that I've spoken to in Ward 3 seems to be not in favor of. Some people aren't aware of the issues. Once they hear about the issues, they don't like to see the expansion. And many people that are bored of the park are very aware, and they don't want to see that either. So again, it's those two things. One is, what's the actual outcome, and what's the methodology? And I think methodology is really key. We need to listen to people's ideas, develop a consensus, get everybody on board. if everybody ultimately decides that they want to have that playground in Grilli Park, even if I don't, that's okay. I'm glad to see it there because that's what the people want. But right now, the consensus of the people that I see is that they don't want it there.
I know that civic groups or even just people get together and form some kind of committee, like when they were talking about driving a road through to the river.
Right.
And that sort of defeated that kind of questionable
Yes.
approach. Is anybody doing anything about this issue in Grilli Park? Trying to form a coalition or at least get that, as you suggest, get to hear everybody's ideas of where it should be?
Well, there's a meeting tomorrow night at the Board of Public Works. It's not a decision meeting, it's an informational meeting, but I know that people are going to be there and are going to be voicing their concerns. I think it's very important that people that are concerned go and speak, or at least call up their current ward alderman, or call up a representative on the Board of Public Works that you may know, or call the mayor's office and say, this is how I feel about this. I think that it's easy for most of us just kind of maybe not tune in or just to let it happen, trusting that the people that are making decisions are going to be acting in the best interest of the city. And that is not always the case. Or maybe someone's idea of the best interests are not truly what the people want. And I think it's important that we voice our concerns. And it's important for people in office to listen to those concerns.
Yes.
And never forget that we are a representative government. And when we're in the aldermanic chamber or wherever we're elected to serve, that we are responsive to our constituents.
You were about to mention maybe there's an alternative location. I mean, does it have to be a Grilli Park? Not because of what it is, but just because of the lack of agreement on a place for it.
There are other places it can be. I understand there's something a park down in Ward 9 that could be suitable for it, where there's a desire to have new or updated playground facilities. And I think if that's the case, then other alternatives should be explored. We should explore all alternatives to find out where people really want it.
Well, that's good. Let's skip to some other thing. In the newspapers are talking about crime, and that seems to be increasing in the city. And the police captain wants to have more, he needs more people. Is that something that you see in your ward, the need for more presence of police?
Generally, no. But Janot's Market got robbed. That's right around the corner from me. That's a fixture in Ward 3. And I think a lot of people are surprised at that. That grocery store is the oldest grocery store in the city of Nashua. It's a great little place. And I think everyone sort of assumed it would always be the corner market, you know, down there on Manchester Street, and that there'd be no issues there. Well, that was robbed at gunpoint a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago. And I think that a larger police presence, unless an officer had been in the store, I don't think that would have made any difference. It's just the way that it is. People and decisions, whether they're good decisions or bad decisions, they're based on randomness. And the likelihood of having an officer in a store when a crime is to be committed, it's not very high. Most of these robberies, a lot of these unsolved robberies in the city of Nashua here, and there have been a lot of them, there's been no officer present. And I think that as soon as the police force is alerted, officers come over, they do a great job, they get the camera view, and I think they're doing absolutely the best they can, and a very good job of tracking down those folks. But to think that by having more police officers, because I guarantee, let's say we hired 5 more or 10 more, the day would come, not too distant future, provided this crime wave sort of thing continued, that someone else would be robbed somewhere else where that new officer wasn't present.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know the budget allowed them to hire more people. I don't know if they've hired them yet or not. You don't know anything about that?
I don't know if they've hired any more. I don't believe so, but I don't know for a fact.
Because I did also see in the newspaper that the academy graduated a lot of people.
I saw that as well.
That's obviously what they have to wait for, to see candidates that qualify.
Yep, I saw that as well.
Well, something to keep our eye on, I guess.
It certainly is. I think that there are bigger issues or bigger causes of the crime problem. I think that to stop it after it happens or to try to prevent it while it's happening is less valuable than trying to prevent that person from making that decision in the first place. And I think that there's this attitudinal issue or malaise, a cloud, not just over the city of Nashua. In fact, I think the cloud has reached the city of Nashua a little bit later than it's reached other places.
That's true.
But there's this cloud, this atmosphere that I think is just bothering people in many respects. And maybe it's that kind of a thing that is causing people to go and rob a store, to pay a mortgage or pay rent, and maybe to buy drugs, I don't know. But something is driving those decisions, and I'd like to see some kind of attitudinal change. And we can't legislate that. I think we have to be something different. And I would like to be on the Board of Aldermen and to somehow, in all the interactions, be something different.
So you want to look at the cause and then try to cure it before or change it.
I think that's the only way to do it. I think that a person decides in their heart to rob a store or not, to do something good or do something bad. And a law simply prescribes a punishment if they do it. But the decision that's made in their heart beforehand is based on their values. And I would like to ultimately, I mean, we've been making changes in our society for a long time, and it's going to be hard to make changes back. But I spoke with someone this morning who said that she just feels that she doesn't hardly recognize Nashua anymore. She's been here since she was 2 years old. And it's just very hard. She doesn't like the changes that she's seeing. And it's not just governmental, but it's an attitudinal kind of thing that hopefully.
Well, I think in a way that's a problem with the country in a lot of
I would agree.
areas. More so the urban areas than the rural areas.
I would agree. And Nashua is an urban area.
Yeah.
It's more urban every day, and certainly more urban now than it was 10 years ago.
Well, I know you've been talking about knocking on doors and talking to people. What else do you hear from the people that we should be concerned about in Nashua?
You know, that's interesting. The number one thing that people say to me, I knock on a door and I introduce myself, and they say, tell me what you think about the Sidewalk project.
Oh, really?
It's always a Sidewalk project. Really, it's on the forefront of people's minds. And a number of views have been expressed to me. The primary one that I hear, in fact, far and away, the biggest view I hear is that they don't like it. They don't like the loss of the trees. They don't like the new design. One person I know said he liked it. He said it's going to be great in 20 years. But most people, by far and away, the majority, say they don't like it. So the decision that was made to do the particular design is not approved of. Secondly, and more importantly, what resonates with people, what they tell me, is that they don't like the way the decision was made. Again, this gets back to our conversation about building consensus. I think whether the mayor or the Board of Aldermen or the Board of Public Works sufficiently invited public comment or not is really immaterial. Because the reality is, the perception is that the people didn't have enough of a say in it. And they were surprised when this decision was made. They were surprised to drive down Main Street and see the trees cut down. They're surprised by the crosswalk over the bridge. They're surprised by all these things. And again, maybe there's all kinds of lists of public meeting or website postings or whatever. It's immaterial because the perception is that it was done, it was just sort of forced on the city of Nashua. There's also a perception that we don't really know what the cost is. That since it was not put out to bid, since the aldermen did not vote on it, since it was done through the Public Works Department, that we really don't know what it costs. I've also heard people say that if we had put it out to bid, it would have been done by now, because a contract, a contractor that took that job on would have been motivated to get it done as fast as he could, so he can go on to something else. But here, the motivation might be naturally for people to keep their jobs, to keep the project going. Let's take this thing into next year, the year after, and just have nice, steady income for a while. I'm not saying that's the case, but I think that that's human nature. Human nature is to think that way and to act that way. And I don't blame someone for acting according to human nature. That's how we all act. We just need to be aware of it.
Yeah, I guess the mayor or the administration really is trying to say, well, we have a public works department, let's use them for some of the stuff instead of going outside. But I agree, I haven't seen anything that says it's more cost effective to do it one way or the other. And what you're saying is that, well, they dreamt up what they wanted to do, and not enough people had input in that, and all of a sudden there it was, and halfway through, before you found out how large it was going to be.
That's right. And I think we still don't have a real clear view of what it costs. I've heard that the mayor wants to count only overtime costs, because the assumption is, well, we already paid them their salary. But if their salary and their time is committed to doing that project, then certainly their straight time counts towards the overall cost of the project, not just the overtime costs. So it's hard to get an accurate view of what a project costs, and it was hard to have the appropriate arm's length oversight that you can have with a contractor.
Well, with your MBA background, don't you think projects should have a containment or a way of scoping them and cost control? I mean, with
Absolutely.
an MBA, that's part of the...
Absolutely. It's
what
very,
you do
very
for any
important.
project.
Define the scope,
Right.
get a quote for it, and if it's a fixed price contract, you hold people to that. If it's, if it's some kind of
But you
extra-
have to have some way of controlling the costs and monitoring the costs.
Absolutely. That's right.
Give it a project number and everybody charges time against
Yep.
it.
Yep, something
you
like
have
that.
that.
There has to be something along those lines, and I think that we just don't see that, so I think it's hard to know what that project actually costs.
Well, you know, there's talk about a new project. We're branding the city. Okay, I
Yes.
don't know what you think about the branding part of it, but they also want to fix the river area. And the dam work that they're doing now is part of it. And there's going to be, I think it's the 25th of this month, that the city, the Chamber of Commerce is holding a little thing on Water Street. I don't know if you've heard about that, but what do you think about that? That's a way they're trying to get to the people, to show them what they're thinking about, how they're going to fix up the river. I don't know if we're going to be a miniature San Antonio or what.
Well, that would be great. San Antonio's done a
It's
great thing with
beautiful.
the rivers. It really is beautiful. I would love to see a vibrant downtown. I think it's vital. When we think about Nashua, I mean, we all live in our Nashua neighborhoods,
Right.
but Nashua, and you think about it as a city, you think about its downtown area. And again, through the Sidewalk project, our downtown area has suffered in its character. There's no denying that. And maybe it's good for the future, but it has suffered. And I want to see a vibrant downtown. I want to see businesses in there. I want to see people out and about on a summer evening. I think these are great things that bolster a city and improve a downtown environment. If we can improve the river in some way, I would love to see that. What shape that will take, it'd be nice if it was a pretty place. We don't have a long stretch through downtown like San Antonio may have, or some other cities. But
Well, you go out towards Route 3, and that's a long stretch. And
well,
part of
that's
it's
a long
park
stretch in
area
there.
already.
Yep. Maybe we could ultimately have some kind of a boat ride back and forth on a summer evening. That'd be pretty nice.
That'd be-
All kinds of things can be done. And I would certainly like to see that develop, because I want people to think, let's go downtown. And we need to do the best to attract more businesses. We have coffee shops and restaurants. We need more businesses, more things to do.
I was down in Texas before it really got started down there, so I saw how bad it
I
was,
see.
an area it was, before they fixed it up. And it took them 10 or 20 years to really get it to where it was, everybody saw it as an attraction for
Wow.
tourists. So they've done quite a lot in this. Well, the last time I was down there was probably 5 years ago, and they're still working on it.
Great. Well, let's do it here.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
So you're going to be down there for the affair on, I guess it's the 25th.
Well, I'll have to head
It's
down
on the
there
way-
and check it out.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to try to do.
Good,
Too. And
good.
I hope the people get to have
I hope
that.
so.
So what else are you going to have to do between now and Election Day?
Well, the main thing for me is knocking on doors. I think absolutely positively I want to meet people. I want to hear what their ideas are. I want to share with them my views, particularly the methodology that I want to bring to the position of Ward 3 Alderman, and let them get to know me. I think that I want them to feel, I want people to feel that they do have a representative, someone they can call, ask a question of, or or express their opinion to, and know that it will be heard.
Well, what is the contact now? You got you might as well tell everybody right now
Sure.
how to get a hold of you.
Yep, I've got several ways to get a hold of me. One is through my website. It's nhthinks.com, nhthinks.com. I've got a telephone number, 603-809-5204. And my email is david.schoneman@gmail.com.
Spell your name for them. They'll see
Sure.
it on. They'll see it.
They'll
on
see
the
it on
thing.
there, but I'll spell it anyway. SCHONEMAN. david.schoneman@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions people have.
Okay, well, good. Well, we look forward to this election. It should be interesting, and
Thanks, Carl.
good luck, and I appreciate you coming down for the interview.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your comments, and contact us through the Nashua Republican City Committee website, nashuagop.org. And we'll look forward to talking to you again on People's View. Thank you for listening.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.